Hi, everybody. So in this video, I'm going to work through the problems at the end of Module 4, which is all about comparative advantage in trade. So let's go ahead and get started. Module 4, and we'll do the check your understandings first, then the multiple choice, and then that second free response. So there are two check your understanding questions here. Number one is about Italy and about the United States, and it says an automobile can be made by 8 workers in one day in Italy, and a washing machine takes 3 workers to make in Italy. In the United States, an automobile takes 6 workers and a washing machine that takes only 2. So the first thing to recognize about this problem is that it's an input style problem. It means that it's saying, here's how many workers it takes to make one thing, or here's how much time it takes to make one thing. And so this one is going to require that we take the inside number over in order to figure out the opportunity costs. So let's go ahead and set that table up. We're going to leave ourselves lots of space because, again, it's much easier to write out the opportunity costs if you get yourself some space. So Italy and the US, those are our 2 countries. And then we're going to say workers, right? Because it's actually that per car or automobile. And then workers per washing machine. I'm just going to abbreviate that. And then it says Italy takes 8 workers to make a car, and it takes 3 workers to make a washing machine. And then in the US, it's 6 and 2. And the rest of these questions, they're valuable, and we're going to get to those. But I think let's go ahead and solve the problem right first, and then we can answer the questions. So in Italy, 1 car is equal to, and then we're going to take the inside number, the 8, that's the inside the box, over the 3. And that's because that one's also Italy's number. And that way we're going to figure out what does 1 car cost Italy to make in terms of washing machines. So the inside 8 over 3, that's kind of a wonky fraction. 3 goes into 8 2 times, so 2 2/3. So 2 2/3 of a washing machine, okay? So that's the opportunity cost for Italy to make 1 car. Now, for the United States to make a car, it's the inside number 6 over the outside number, which is 2. And so that's an easier fraction. That's 3 washing machines. So that's saying every time the United States decides to make a car, they have to give up 3 washing machines. So which one has the lower opportunity cost? Well, Italy, right? It's 2 2/3. So we would say that Italy has comparative advantage in making cars because it's in this column, right? They have it in cars. So Italy should specialize and make those. Now, let's see what happens on the other side. 1 washing machine is equal to, now it's just going to be the reciprocal. So it's actually 3 over 8. And so when I say the reciprocal, it's the reciprocal of this value, right? 8 over 3, and this one's 3 over 8. And 3/8 doesn't reduce anymore, so we would just say 3/8 of a car. It's kind of a bad fraction there, right? 1 washing machine, now let's do the United States, is equal to 2 over 6, right? The inside number, because it's an input problem, right? 2 over 6, which is 1/3 of a car. So which country has the lower opportunity cost of making a washing machine? Well, the United States has it costs them 1/3 of a car, and Italy, it costs them 3/8, and that's bigger. So we would say that the United States has comparative advantage in washing machines. Now let's actually answer the question, right? A says which one has absolute advantage in automobiles, which one has it in washing machines. So that's not looking at the opportunity cost. That one's just looking at the number here, the 8, the 6, the 3, and the 2. And with an input problem, right, absolute advantage would be that you could do it with less resources, or you could do it with less time. Now, in this case, it's resources, it's number of workers. So we would say the country that has absolute advantage in making cars is the United States, because they can do it with fewer workers. Now, with washing machines, it's the same story, right? 2 is less than 3, so we'd say the US for both. But remember that doesn't mean that the United States has no reason to trade with Italy. In fact, they should specialize and trade according to their comparative advantage. Now, B says which one has comparative advantage in washing machines, which one in automobiles. Now, washing machines, right, that's this column, so that's the United States. And Italy is in this column, and Italy has the lower opportunity cost, so we would say Italy has the comparative advantage there. Now, C just says, what type of specialization results in the greatest gains from trade between the 2 countries? And that's just a fancy way of saying, like, which one should make what? Okay, that's all they're asking. There's a lot of gobbledygook in there. All you got to say is Italy, and Italy should make cars, and the US should make washing machines. That's it. That's all you got to say. All right, now let's talk about number 2. Number 2 says, refer to the story of Tom and Hank in figure 4.1 and explain why Tom and Hank are willing to engage in trade of 1 fish for 1.5 coconuts. Now, I'm going to write that out here, and then we'll scroll back in the book. You probably won't need to do that if you have the book in front of you. So let's scroll back and let's look at figure 4.1. Right, we'll get there. There's table 1.4.1, figure 4.1. So I'll be honest and say, actually, it's harder if you try to do it with the figure. I think it's kind of a little mean trick they play because they solve the opportunity costs for you here in table 4.1. And if you look, you can see 1 fish for 1.5 coconut, right? That's what we were given as the term of trade, which just means like, would they do this deal, okay? So let's look, 1 fish over here, Tom's opportunity cost is 3/4 of a coconut. So we're going to write 3/4, and Tom's opportunity cost is lower than Hank's, right? So this is Tom's minimum price because Tom is the seller, right? Tom's the seller. That's the way to think about that. And over here, we're going to put 2, and that's Hank's maximum price, right? Because Hank is the buyer. Now, how do we know which one's the buyer and the seller? Well, we know because whichever one has the lower opportunity cost, they're going to produce that, right? They're going to sell that to the other one, right? So Hank is going to be buying these things, the fish, from Tom. Now, this deal that we're willing to do, right? This is 3/4 of a coconut, and that's 2 coconuts, is 1.5 between those two numbers. Well, yeah, it sure is, right? It's between the two. And so it satisfies both of their needs. It's above Tom's minimum price that he's willing to sell it for, and it's below Hank's maximum price that he's willing to pay. So both of them would be good with the deal. Both good. Now, just bear with me for a second, and let's think about what would be the case if it were like, instead of 1 to 1.5, it were 1 to 3. Okay, so 1 to 3 coconuts. Well, who's going to be upset with that? Well, think about it, right? Tom's minimum price as the seller is 3/4. Is 3 bigger than Tom's minimum price? Yeah, so Tom's fine. He's going to be happy with that. He's selling, remember? So sellers want high prices. The buyer, on the other hand, is going to go, no way, I'm not paying 3 coconuts. And the reason that he's not going to pay 3 coconuts is because he could do it himself. He could make a fish himself for 2 coconuts. So there's no rational reason for why he would buy a fish for 3 coconuts when he could just make, go catch a fish for himself. So I hope that helps. Now let's go back and take a look at some of these multiple choice problems. Now all 5 of the multiple choice are another comparative advantage problem, right? These are extra practice. That's what they're here for. So let's take a look at multiple choice. Now remember, you don't actually have to do these for the bonus credit, but they are going to show up on quizzes. So it might be helpful to work through them. It says use the graph to determine which country has absolute advantage in each good. We have country A, country B, wheat, and textiles. Okay? So I'm just going to draw this one out. Now on a quiz, right, you probably don't need to do all of this. You probably just need to read the questions and work through them as best you can. But we'll see, right? It's good practice. So we have country A, country B, and country A, it looks like they could do 200 wheat or 100 textile. 200 and 100. And country B could do 100 wheat and 150 textile. And this is what we call an output problem because it's how much they can produce. So we're going to say 1 wheat, and then we're going to take the outside number, the 100, and put it over the 200. Now, hopefully you can do that in your head. That's equal to 1/2 of a textile. So that means every time A produces 1 wheat, they give up 1/2 of a textile. The reciprocal would also be true for them. So 1 textile is 200 over 100, which is just 2 wheat. Okay? Now let's take a look here. 1 wheat for country B, outside number is 150 over 100. So 150 over 100, and that's equal to 1.5. Think about that one. Okay, 1.5. And then here, 1 textile outside number is 100 in this case, over 150, which is 2/3 of a wheat. Now we can actually figure out who has comparative advantage and what and all that good stuff. So which one has lower opportunity cost of making wheat, right? So which one is smaller, 1/2 or 1.5? It's just 1/2. So we would say country A has it in wheat, and 2/3 is smaller than 2. So we would say country B has comparative advantage in textiles. Now let's tackle these multiple choice problems. Okay? And I don't even know if actually most of these questions are going to need this, but I think it's helpful for us to go ahead and do this practice anyways, right? So question number 1 says, which country has absolute advantage? Now that's super easy. You don't have to even do the table to solve that problem. All you have to do is look over here and see which country can make more wheat. Well, that's country A, right? And country B can make more textiles. So A, B, so that's A. Pretty easy so far. Number 2 says, what's the opportunity cost of a bushel of wheat for country A? So let's see here. 1 wheat for country A was half of a textile. So that is, looks like A as well. Okay. Question 3, which country has comparative advantage in each good? Well, we already solved that one. A has it in wheat and B has it in textiles. So wheat, A, B, textiles. Oh, we're getting a bunch of A's right in a row. When I was a student, I always freaked out about that. I hated that. There were multiples in a row. If the 2 countries specialize in trade, which one will import what? Now, this one requires you to remember the country that's importing is the one who's buying it. So the other country is the one that's making it, right? So we know that country A is making wheat. So that means country B is buying the wheat. So that gets us down to options C and D. And we know that country B is making the textiles, which means that country A is buying them. So our correct answer is going to be D. Okay, number 5, the very last one, what's the highest price country B is willing to pay for wheat from A? So we know that A is making the wheat, right? But what's the highest price B is willing to pay? We look at B's opportunity cost, and it's 1.5 textiles. That's the maximum price that B is willing to pay for 1 wheat. It's their price of making it themselves. So we look at it and we go 1.5 textiles, that's over here, D. So I hope that helped. All right, now let's tackle this free response question and we'll be done pretty soon. Now, I'm gonna tell you, this is a really good little practice problem, this first one here. Check it out, the answers are here for you. Number 2 says, here's these 2 countries making textiles and wheat. Man, they must have a thing for that. What's the opportunity cost of making a bushel of wheat, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna go ahead and solve this whole one, even though you probably don't have to do all of it just for this problem. So let's go ahead and set this one up. And again, extra practice, right? It's gonna help because this is how we get good at it, right? The only way I ever learned this was by practicing. And boy, I screwed it up over and over again. So I feel you if you're like, oh, I don't know about this. A can make 15 wheat or 60 textiles. Okay. And B can make 10 wheat or 60. And now I'm just going to solve this. It's an output problem. So the outside number goes over. So 60 over 15 is 4. And 60 over 10 is 6. And so that pretty clearly shows A has it in wheat. Again, man, we're getting the same answers. And then here, 15 over 60 is, oh, that's easy. It's the reciprocal of 4, so it's 1/4. Okay, and then here is 1/6. And so we have that. Okay, now question A, opportunity cost of wheat for each country. So A's opportunity cost is for wheat is 4 textiles, and B's opportunity cost is 6 textiles. So again, we're just looking at the table there. And B says absolute advantage in wheat. Which one can make more? If I'm looking at wheat, A can make more. And I'll just put because 15 is bigger than 10, right? We're comparing which one can make more. And then C says which one has it in textiles, and the answer is country B, and it does say you have to explain. So the simple explanation can just be to write down the 2 opportunity costs. You would say because 1/6 is less than 1/4. And if you're writing down the opportunity costs, you're good. That's all you have to do. That shows that you understand what's happening in these. Okay, so I hope that this video helped you with Module 4, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.